Welcome to Meet SRU Faculty. I'm Tim Durr, and alongside me today is computer science professor Dr. Deborah Whitfield, who got her PhD from the University of Pittsburgh. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Whitfield.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
It's nice to have you on the program. I introduced you as a computer science teacher, but I know you're also involved in a lot more than just teaching. Let's start with some of the conferences that you've gone to and some of the work you've done with other professors, such as Dr. David Daly.
Okay. I've been to many conferences recently dealing with what they call SVG. It's Scalar Vector Graphics. That's what Dr. Daly and I have been working on, along with some theory with some students. Most recently, this past fall, we had the opportunity to go to Zurich, Switzerland, and took a couple students with us, and they got to present a paper with us.
All right. With the scalable vector graphics, what are some practical things that you can do with those?
Scalar vector graphics is a way to put graphics on web pages so that instead of just taking like a standard image, like a picture, a screenshot or whatever you take and put there, instead you draw it, which means you can zoom in on something. So if you got a map, you could actually zoom in and get more and more details, or you could zoom out. So that's what scalar vector graphics is. Our research is doing something called graph navigability. How to navigate through a graph of nodes and edges. And those nodes and edges then become web pages, or the nodes, and the edges then actually are links to other websites.
Okay. So it just helps you to move through it all while still having a clear image that can be zoomed in upon and able to see very clearly.
Yeah, the software we're using is SVG. It's part of HTML, but what we're actually using that for is creating graphs and see if those graphs, if you could get from one place to another very quickly. So if you go to a website and you want to go from all the way to find something immediately on that website, we can direct you a little bit quicker to that information rather than you having to search through everything.
Okay. What are some of the other aspects involved? I know that you talked about your research called Navigating Gravity and Graphs. What are some other aspects that are involved with it, along with just helping with the navigation throughout? What are some other practical measures that you want to have involved with it?
Well, what we'd really like to do is be able to set up with a website like everybody's probably here on campus familiar with D2L, and it's an educational website. And when you're in an actual online distance ed course, you're trying to get through the whole chapter, the whole body of knowledge, and get to every piece of knowledge. But sometimes you want to go your own direction, not the direction that the professor set up for you to go, and you want to navigate yourself. And we could put cues on pages and organize the pages in such a fashion that allows you to be able to reach all of the information without necessarily hitting the back button and going through one site or one page 20 times, so not repeating all those pages a lot of times. Okay,
so it just helps it to be a more streamlined process.
Yes, it is.
To get through the entire flow.
Yes.
Okay, back to some of the conferences that you've gone to. I know you said you've gone to Switzerland, Paris, some other places. What was a specific conference that you really enjoyed, maybe just because of the location or a specific presenter who was there?
Well, those are two different places. Actually, one of the best presentations I ever saw was at the Switzerland conference, and believe it or not, it was an artist that was using SVG to put really neat designs on things like headphones and skateboards. And it was pretty cool to actually see other applications of how SVG could be used. Probably the neatest place I went with this particular group was probably Paris. And that was honestly my first trip to Europe. I'd never been to Europe before, so it was pretty exciting for me.
So you took some time to explore while you were there at the conference?
I actually went, it was before the beginning of the semester, so I actually went 5 days early. Took my daughter, who had just graduated from high school and was off to college, and so she went with me for 5 days, and we explored Paris, and then the conference started, and it was a lot of fun.
It sounds like something good to be able to get out and explore as part of your job. Moving on past the research and some of the conferences you've been through, you do work with STEM, which is for science, technology, engineering, and math initiative. What is some of the work that you've done with them?
This is a brand new focus on campus. Last year, the state system of higher education, the 14 state schools, got together and decided to apply for a National Science Foundation, NSF grant, through CUR, Council of Undergraduate Research, a lot of acronyms, to basically encourage all the 14 state schools to look at how we can get more people involved in the STEM majors, whether that's by recruiting, having existing students change majors, having them do research, whatever that might be. And a team of us then went out last fall to the first meeting, and they asked me if I would be the coordinator on campus. And as a coordinator, what I do is just basically get more emphasis on recruiting and looking at STEM. I give it a face, if you will,
Okay.
to the topic. I could go on and on and on about the various things that we're doing with that. The first thing that I thought was the most useful was we got some groups of students together, such as these kids that went to Zurich, and told them to say, hey, tell other students about what you're doing. And we got a math and computer science faculty and students together and have both math students and computer science students present, and not necessarily their research, you know, that kind of boring stuff, but instead say, hey, we do this and look what we get to do because of it. And so these students have encouraged other students to join what I now have with Dr. Daly's a internal grant. So we've
you
even
use
got more students.
A little bit of word of mouth to
Yeah.
spread it around.
Yeah.
All right. I know one thing that was striking is how low that the U.S. ranks in science. And could you just talk a little bit about the need for scientific literacy?
Yeah, we don't know exactly why, but about middle school age or so, some people just basically get turned off of science and mathematics. Some people feel it is the mathematics. For whatever reason, that scares people. And what has happened because of that is we have fewer and fewer people nationally, and certainly in the state of Pennsylvania, going into science, technology, engineering, or math, those fields, those disciplines. Although we don't have engineering here, we do have a very strong science department, math, technology, computer science. And we don't want students to think, hey, this is the hard stuff. There's some fun stuff. It can be turned into being really a lot of fun.
I know going off of that, you talked about how that there's a program for incoming freshmen to get them involved with different aspects of the sciences. Can you talk a little bit more about that and elaborate on some?
Sure. We're going to try something this coming fall 2013. We're going to take a group of students that are undeclared, haven't decided what they want to major in on campus, and cluster them together. I'm sure students here are used to the community clusters where they're all together in a dorm room and taking several classes together. And we're going to get all of their classes together and get them in some science, computer science classes the first semester with faculty members that are aware that these students are undeclared. They're not necessarily real strong in science, and we want the whole atmosphere to be the same so the students feel comfortable so they don't have a science major in the classroom with them. You know, somebody that's had years of science and math in high school. Instead, they're all in the same equal playing field, and hopefully they'll feel a little bit more comfortable about getting some science and math classes in. Then the following semester, we're also going to keep that same group together and get them in their first mathematics college class. And again, do the same thing, try and, even if they don't all go in the same course, just get them in this 3 courses so that they have that, the other people around them that are in the same boat and don't have that strong background. We're going to do some programs with them. We hope to take them in the fall down to the Carnegie Science Center. Right now, actually, as of yesterday, I'm looking into seeing if we could get them into the technology area of the Pirates, and actually then maybe see a game. And then we hope the spring semester that they're here to take them all down to Washington, D.C., show them practical applications of science. So not just go to the museums, but instead take them to the National Institute of Health and let them see how technology is used, biology is used. Take them to the National Science Foundation and see how the sciences are given money and what kind of equipment, hardware, software, microscopes are available for use, and hopefully get them a little bit more engaged.
All right, 2 questions off that one. The first one is, what would some of the courses be? Would it be liberal studies with 1 or 2 science courses associated into it?
Yes, it's actually all the courses we're taking them in the first semester are liberal studies classes, including the sciences.
Okay.
So even if they decide they don't want to become a STEM major, at least through this process, they will have a strong completion of the liberal studies STEM area, the science and mathematics areas, so they go on to be whatever major they decide to be. They'll have had that strong opportunity in the sciences the first year.
Okay, so you're helping them to fill some blocks, and then
Sure.
if they decide to go on to the science and they have it, then if not, they have those liberal studies filled.
Yeah.
All right. And then whenever you take them down to Washington, D.C. and these other areas, are you really trying to focus on showing them things that, it's not just the science of being in the books, with like biology and things like that, showing them the other sides of science that can be involved other than just crunching numbers and things like that?
I'm glad you asked that, because that's exactly the focus that people think, oh, it's just crunching numbers, it's all in the lab. It's not. Science is around us everywhere, all the time. I mean, it's lighting, it's meteorology, it's all over. Yeah. Mathematics is hitting us everywhere, and you don't even realize it when you sit down with your smartphone and you're trying to figure out how to get from point A to point B and how long it'll take you. There's some math involved in that. So the practical applications of science and mathematics is really what we want people to see, because that's not scary. They've been dealing with it their whole life. They just don't equate that, if you will, and put that into that box of being biology or being chemistry.
Okay, we've touched a lot on the science and different things that you do. Let's touch on some of your personal stuff. I know that you went to Boardman High School, and you have a bit of a famous classmate.
I am afraid I am a Cleveland Browns fan.
Some people might not like that. I'm a Steelers fan, so.
1982, I graduated from Boardman High School, and Bernie Kosar, the former NFL quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, was in my class. And I have to admit, he was a very good student, so it was not that typical, being a jock. He wasn't. He was a good student.
That's good. And is that what really got you into liking the Browns? Did you like him before that, or whenever you saw that he was?
Well, my father had an allegiance to Ohio State University and the Cleveland Browns, so I was kind of brought up in the Ohio area with the Browns. So that just cemented it that I would never change allegiance, even though sometimes we don't perform as well as we'd like to.
Do you think they'll have a good season here in the next few?
Oh, absolutely.
Confidence. What made you eventually come over here to Western Pennsylvania with the University of Pittsburgh, and then settling in Slippery Rock area?
I did my PhD at University of Pittsburgh, and lived in Pittsburgh for a while, then was in Ohio, and I was looking in the area at a bunch of different universities, and I happened upon Slippery Rock University along with some other colleges. I interviewed over here, and I just liked it. People were nice. It was a friendly home atmosphere. When I first started here, there was only 8 faculty members in our department, so it was very small. We've grown to 13 now, but it's just everybody seems to be caring, and they want to educate students. That's what they're looking for, not to do research. Now, I love research, but I try to involve all aspects of my research that I do with students and get them engaged. And I have a student now, it's going to go off to grad school, so that's pretty cool.
And I know, going off of that, you were part of drafting the curriculum for the IT department. And can you tell us a little bit about drafting that and how it's different than most IT departments at other universities?
Yeah, there's all kinds of areas in computing. Computer science has been around the longest, and that's not long compared to most disciplines. That's been around since the 40s and 50s, and it is more science-based. Information systems came along in the 80s, and it's more how you use computing in business. But then there is this thing, it's called the World Wide Web. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I think so.
It came around, it became quite popular early 90s, 95, and we were realizing that the way that you would develop applications on the web is very different than a desktop machine. And now the web transfers basically over to mobile devices too. So when I'm talking about that, you can include those. So we decided what we want to do was create a program that allowed people to see how you program for the web, including the hidden machines, the server machines. So when you go to Amazon to buy something, there's a machine in the background, a database that says, oh, I have 5 of these and it costs $2.99. Yeah. So we wanted our students to be able to do both ends of that, which also requires some technical skills like networking and security, administration of machines. That's very different. When most people think IT, they think how I fix a machine. My machine's broke, I'm going to call somebody to put virus software on it and kill my viruses off. That's not what our IT program prepares our students for. It's more of how you program for the web.
Okay, so it's more based on how the web runs and things like that instead of just how the computer runs.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's everything that we wanted to cover today. I'm glad that you're fighting the good fight there to try to raise science literacy. And thank you for joining us today. And hopefully the Browns have a good season this year. So,
You say that as a Steelers fan. Thank
well,
you.
I'm not a Steelers fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm a Carolina Panthers fan, so we haven't had much better luck. But
All right.
hopefully it turns out well. But I'm Tim Durr, and this is Dr. Whitfield who joined me today. Thank you for watching Meet SRU Faculty. Have a good day.